Welcome back, a warm welcome back here to HR Week 2023 onto the main stage. And again, if you've enjoyed just a little piece, a little dose of what we've been sharing throughout the morning, you're going to enjoy this rest of the day today as well. Again, remember, it's all about HR development, about HR careers, your career, where you're moving forward. Clearly, HR is really all focused on developing others and developing organizations. Let's dedicate today a little bit more about us, right? About how you're going to improve, move forward, your career, what's going to happen, how you're going to progress. And all these sessions today are kind of here again for you. Right, let's move on now to our next session, all about how effective use of EQ really improves leadership. How does it do that? We're going to hear right now from the person who's going to share her perspectives on exactly how we're going to make sense of all that. Please, a warm welcome, warm virtual round of applause that nobody can hear, but we can feel for the founder and director of WhatWork, Jelena Radonjić. Jelena, come and join us.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, we can see you, we
Fantastic.
are with you, and everything as far as I know. I hope everybody can hear you. I can see you and hear you loud and clear. Listen, I'm going to let you go now. I let you go now and join you back just a few moments, just towards the end of the session.
I just wanted to check if my presentation is showing. Oh, now it is. Okay, wonderful. So, hello everyone, and it's my pleasure to be talking to you today on how effective use of EQ or emotional intelligence can improve leadership. My name is Jelena Radonjić, and I'm a career and leadership development coach. So, let's crack on. Why me, first of all? Here are some numbers here, which there were supposed to be some animations, figures flying out, but never mind. 25 plus 7, it's years of experience, 25 years in international recruitment, and also higher education management, in other words, dealing with executive MBA and MBA students in business schools. I've coached more than 320 clients to date, and that's growing as well, both in the space of leadership development and career development, as well as career transitions. There's more than 3,600 hours of coaching behind me, roughly. It's difficult to record every single one. And then the last figure is really about some of the results that my clients get when working with me, apart from becoming better leaders, being more fulfilled in their careers, which is a material uplift in their annual compensation, which at the moment is averaging at 38.7%, which is actually great news. So this was in figures, in words. You can see a little bit more here about me and why I'm actually so passionate about the world of careers, of leadership development and growth, personal and professional growth. So I started my career in Japan a long time ago in recruitment, running events, and then I moved to the UK some 28 years ago, so a very long time. The last 7 years of my employment, I was working with business schools around the world, helping them source and identify and select best talent when it comes to MBA and executive MBA. And then I launched my career coaching and leadership development consultancy, WhatWork, 7 years ago. And the rest you have already heard about to a certain extent. I'm also a qualified coach. I trained and qualified with CTI, but I also work with thought leaders and call them even gurus. I've always been very much committed to personal transformation. So I bring all of that into my toolkit when I work with clients on leadership development and generally facilitating their growth. I also love to write and publish when I have a moment. So yeah, that's it for the moment about me. Now, I would love to ask you some questions. I'm not sure if you can type in the chat box, but even if it is just checking in with yourself, because we're talking today about emotional intelligence. So I wanted to ask you to say in one word or type in the chat box, what is your current emotional state? Right now, how do you feel? The reason why I'm asking this is because the beginning of this journey of emotional intelligence starts with actually tuning into ourselves, getting in touch with our body and emotions because they're very closely connected, and starting to build some awareness about how do we actually feel at any given moment. So, what will I cover today? First of all, what is EQ, emotional intelligence? Then I will touch upon competencies. Then leadership styles, particularly according to Daniel Goleman, and how they relate to emotional intelligence and its application. And then I'll touch upon communication as a leader. So what you will see here are very small extracts, nuggets from the content that I actually use with my clients. So, emotional intelligence, to understand emotional intelligence, we need to look at two parts. The first one is personal competence. In other words, how do we recognize and manage our own emotions? And then the other one is social competence, which is outward facing. In other words, how do we understand other people's emotions and how are we able to show empathy, understanding of that, and also communicate with others. Now, so the first bit is recognition, which is obviously starting with self-awareness, but then moving to social scale, it's about social awareness. You will see here some significant traits such as empathy, service orientation, also organizational awareness. And then it's not enough, obviously, just to recognize things or our own emotions. We need to be able to regulate them. So once we recognize, we want to be able to do something with these emotions and harness them in a productive way, or most productive way in the workplace, but also in our personal lives. So under regulation, we have self-management, which is basically self-control, but also optimistic, positive attitude and taking initiative, which all come under competences on the personal scale for regulation. And then we have relationship management, which is actually helping others, developing others, and also being able to deal with difficult conflict situations. I can't tell you how many clients actually seek help with that specific thing. The important bit is to understand that even though we mostly focus on this relationship management, it is almost like the tip of an iceberg. But if we don't deal with all of these other areas and really dig deep into them and develop them, then we will have potentially problems with relationship management. So there are many definitions of emotional intelligence. The first definition was actually, the word itself was coined by Daniel Goleman some more than 30 years ago. I followed his work on and off for decades. But I share here some ideas as to how we can understand it or define it. So the value of EQ is in learning to read the messages from ourselves, again, starting from self-awareness, and others, which are affecting our behavior. Because how we feel will definitely affect also how we intend to behave, and then what we project outward. So this bit of self-awareness and self-regulation is crucial. Also, there's a loop between thinking and feeling, and they feed into each other. So being able to grasp that and to have a certain level of, let's say, command over our own emotional intelligence is crucial, really, for all sorts of things. We'll see in a minute how and where emotional intelligence comes into play. And then it's also a definition that the ability is to manage ourselves and our relationships effectively, but also learning to see how others see us. So being able to almost step outside of ourselves and see what kind of perception people have of us. One of the authors whose work I really like is Crosby, who talks about spiritual development and emotional intelligence. Very interesting and unusual approach. And he says that emotional intelligence is using our cognitive mind to be aware of our emotions and emotions of others. So essentially, what is it? It is thinking about feeling, right? It's thinking about how we feel. Now, I've looked at some recent studies, and this is actually from latest book of Daniel Goleman, which is just being published, which again highlights numerous studies, thousands of people participating, mostly executives actually, showing that emotional intelligence is crucial, whether you're a team member, a leader, whether you're in sales. In other words, wherever you deal with people, you need a high level of emotional intelligence if you want to succeed. So IQ, or the standard sort of intelligence, is important, of course, if you need to deal with complex matters, create like strategy, for example, at work, you will lean into your IQ. However, when it comes to delivering this strategy, you will need a high level of EQ because you will be dealing with people. And according to Gallup report, the latest report on the state of workplace, apparently only 20% of employees trust their bosses. Now, that is really alarming. Why is that the case? Apparently, it's because leaders' lack of empathy. So empathy is obviously one of the crucial competencies in the emotional intelligence toolkit. And I speak about that separately on different occasions. But, you know, whichever aspect we choose to look at, emotional intelligence comes into play. And we definitely have to work on developing that in ourselves, in our employees, in our leaders. So IQ or EQ is actually the wrong question. We need both. So again, from latest study by Goleman, here are some important effects of having a higher level or highly developed EQ. You will be more productive and more engaged. You will be a higher level performer at every level. Therefore, you will advance and progress in your career with more ease. You will be better at sales in every sense of that word. What does it mean? Whether you're selling an idea to your coworkers or stakeholders, or whether you're literally selling products and services, emotional intelligence is key. Therefore, when you are better at what you're doing and engaging people and harnessing the potential of your team, of course, you will be able to generate more revenue or generally have a positive impact on the bottom line of the business. And so forth. It's all about being more effective, even in task-focused technical jobs. You will be seen as more trustworthy. There you go. So what's happening with those only 20% of employees trusting their bosses? Probably they're working with bosses or leaders who have high level of emotional intelligence, who are able to build trust. And then other aspects of performance in terms of you being engaged, less likely to leave your job. So here we can see directly how this impacts retention and employee development and employee engagement, because you'll be more engaged. You will not be a bully or consistently late, because you will be engaged with your work and have a positive attitude to it. So how do we build relationships? Very quickly, this is interesting to consider, not just in the context of workplace, but in general. The first relationship that we build is the relationship with ourselves. This is the basis and the foundation of everything. So how we relate to ourselves, that's how we relate to others. Again, I do a lot of interesting work with clients on the saboteurs and limiting beliefs, and also how they can be tackled by the application of emotional intelligence. But, for example, if you are very harsh to yourself and judgmental, perhaps have perfectionist tendencies, you will be like that to others. Of course, there's a loop here between self and others, but then also how do you relate to the world and what kind of influences do you get from the external world? So, moving to competences of emotional intelligence, I touched upon them very briefly at the beginning. So, to sum up, we're looking at the personal scale, and then we're looking at the social scale, which are all about awareness, respectively self and social, as well as developing these management skills of self and others, or rather others' emotions. So when this is broken down, you can see in more detail what is included here. But these are some of the basic EQ competencies, which then combine in different ways to create different leadership styles, which is extremely interesting to explore, at least for me, in my with my clients. So self-confidence, for example, is one of the personal competencies, which clearly stems from self-awareness and being able to assess your own emotional states. I often say we cannot be confident if we are not clear, if we don't know ourselves. So clarity is the precursor of confidence. And then when we move into regulation, it is about self-control, but also building trustworthy relationships, being adaptable, conscientious, have an achievement orientation, as well as take initiative. I can see some questions are coming, so I will probably answer that at the end because there's still a lot to cover. On this social scale, as you can see, the first one is empathy, the ability to tune into the other person and understand what it is that they're feeling, what are they thinking, where are they coming from. That doesn't mean necessarily you have to agree with them or completely immerse in their emotional field, but it is necessary to be able to really understand them, to be a good listener, to open up to other viewpoints. Here we have also service orientation and organizational awareness, which I mentioned. In terms of relationship management, we have lots of various skills which come under the skill set. I've been told that I have to move on, so I'll go through this quickly. One of the bits of good news is that we can improve EQ at any stage of our life. Unlike IQ, which of course we can improve a little bit, EQ is more malleable, and through consistent work on ourselves, building self-awareness and self-regulation, and then moving that onto the social scale, we can definitely improve our EQ. Now, when it comes to leadership styles and emotional intelligence, according to Goldman, there are 6 different leadership styles, which all have their pluses and minuses. And you can see here what sort of emotional intelligence skills or components they lean into. Now, the pace setting or modeling kind of leadership behavior or style, as well as the coercive one, are least favorable or least favored. They don't score very high because they don't actually employ much of emotional intelligence, social skills in terms of empathy and understanding others. The highest scoring one is authoritative, which you shouldn't mix up with authoritarian, which is more like coercive. Authoritative means having the authority to lead whilst also showing empathy, so being able to support and challenge your people, your team. More on that, obviously, if you're interested, I'm happy to share more on Goldman, or you can look up his work. But the most important takeaway from this part is to understand that no one leadership style is preferred. Actually, great leaders have several leadership styles developed, and they're able to flip between them depending on the situation and circumstances, particularly if they have mastered the authoritative, remember, confident but supportive, democratic, which seeks consensus to a certain extent, affiliative, which is about creating deeper bonds with the people in your organization, and then coaching style, which actually in recent years have come to light as one of most preferred styles when it comes to developing people long term. And I'm certainly seeing organizations investing in coaching, whether it's training their employees to become coaches or engaging coaches who can teach what a coaching style is. So very quickly about communication, I wanted to point out that how we can now employ this emotional intelligence in communication as a leader. First of all, it's this bit about self-awareness. What is it that's really within my control? Then what or who can I influence? And then making the best of everything else, which I cannot influence. But by choosing how I respond to this huge zone of no influence, I bring it back into my sphere of control so that I don't react, but I respond. As you can see here, this is one of the 3 key things that I like to the audience to take away when it comes to influencing mistakes. Are we up with the time?
We are in fact. Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I thought we'll have about 25 minutes, so sorry if I haven't finished. There's literally a couple more slides, but I just want to say thank you for your attention, and if you're interested in knowing more, please connect with me on LinkedIn or email me. I'll be very happy to share resources or share how I work with clients individually and in organizations. Thank you.
Jelena, thank you so much. Bravo, well done. Quite a few questions there, but listen, unfortunately, because we run out of time, no time to actually answer those. However, what you could do, I'm sure you could, if you stay online, you can stay and maybe answer these or connect with those that have connected with you to take those conversations forward. Thank you so much for this session and naturally for your time as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheerio.